The Paranormal View. The Paranormal View. The Paranormal View. Time now for the Paranormal View. The Paranormal View on the Para-X Radio Network with your host, Henry Foister, Craig Rupp, and Jeffrey Gould. The Paranormal View.
Welcome, everybody, to the Paranormal View right here on the Para-X Radio Network. It's been kind of a long week, and I tell you, I'm ready for the weekend. Love Saturdays, love to be here, and I'm glad we have our co-host with us tonight. We have Jeffrey Gould.
Think hard, who's your host?
And Craig Rupp.
Hey, everybody.
How's it going, everybody?
I get brain locked sometimes, but that's okay. I'm allowed to. I'm over 20. So, tonight we're going to have a great show tonight, and I really have looked forward to this. We have a whole host room full of people, and I know they're just dying to get into this. I want to thank everybody for listening from around the world.
Good one, Henry.
You like that, huh?
Yeah, I like that, yeah.
And if you're not here with us, please come over to para-x.com, click on live chat at the top of the page, and it'll put you right in here with all these wonderful people. And you'll be able to interact with us and send questions to Jeffrey, myself, or Craig, and we will get them right over to our guest. You know, I'm going to let everybody know also about our website. It's theparanormalview.com. You can go there. I now have up bios on the hosts, so you can check that out. I also put up on there our upcoming shows. You can also listen to our podcasts from there. So do that. There's also a big fan there. If you'd like to leave comments, you can do that. If you would like to send us an email, you can do that by going to theparanormalviewfans@gmail.com. Now, with that, what I'm going to do is have Craig introduce our guest this week.
This week, we have the author of
The Fun of Dying.
Good grief.
Yeah, okay. Put me on the spot here, Henry. The Fun of Dying. Roberta Grimes is with us tonight. Thank you, Henry, for that.
Good evening.
I'm even awake and I'm screwing up.
No problem. Welcome, Roberta, to the Paranormal View.
I'm delighted to be here. Thank you all for joining us. This is going to be fun.
It's going to be a great night, fun night, and I do thank you for being here and taking the time to be with us. I think the first thing what we want to do is take and let you tell us about Roberta Grimes and what you got to this point to be able to write a book about dying. And were you into the paranormal any at all, or what took place?
Well, I'm sorry knowing the title of your show, but I don't consider anything to be paranormal. I think everything is normal. We just don't recognize it as such. When I'm an attorney by trade, mild-mannered attorney by day, and at night I've been super researcher for the last 50 years. Because when I was 8 years old, I had an experience of light, and from that point on, I've always known there was something else, something beyond the curtain that no one seemed able to I didn't ask anyone what had happened to me. I never told anyone, but I was trying to figure it out. And that's why I think I was brave enough to research the afterlife, and because I think most of us don't want to know because it might be bad news or there might not be an afterlife. It's better to believe and hope than to know there's nothing. But I always knew there was something, so I wasn't afraid to do it. And the more I did it, and it really, the last probably 25 years, pretty intensively, but before, all my life I've been researching this. And what I've found is that reality is very different from what we believe it is, and from what science believes it is, and from what religions believe it is, and it's actually much more wonderful than what we've been taught. And the fun of dying is meant to convey that. What it does is to explain to us what's going on and how we can be sure about that, and what the dead, who are very, very good communicators in many cases, what the dead have told us about where they are. And that's what the book is about. It's designed for people who, people said, well, who is it for? Well, it's for people who are dying, people who are grieving, or people who expect to die someday.
Excellent.
And that's about it.
Pretty easy expectation, I would think.
Well, yes. Although my mother, this is her 92nd birthday, and she still does not believe she will be dying. She doesn't want me to tell her anything about it because it really doesn't apply to her. So I think that's, if you want to know the very definition of optimism, I think that's optimism.
My mother's actually close to 90 herself, although you would never know it because she's so young at heart.
Well, yes. Well, that's of course a great thing. But the problem is, the sad thing is, when people like my mom kind of don't want to know and are afraid, they cling to life. And the fact is that it's so much better once we've transitioned. Life is, that's what the title of my book understates the reality of what it's like once we're out of our bodies. Getting there can be difficult. But as soon as we're out, it becomes really wonderful for virtually all of us. There are some exceptions, but we can talk about what those are and how to avoid, those exceptions. But it's a wonderful eternal life. Mind is eternal. We never begin, we never end, and this is just a little morning in preschool. That's all this whole Earth life really is.
Now, you feel that once you die, you're in a different, I want to say a level.
What happens is, if you can understand that nothing is solid, this whole, what we think of as the universe, is basically energy. It's an illusion, and it's energy based, and we know that from quantum physics. And when we die, it's just as if your mind were a television set tuned to this energy level. When you die, your mind just tunes to a slightly different, higher energy level and picks up a whole new solid reality, which is in the same place, if you want to talk about place, as this one is.
I very much. No, I was saying in the book, I very much liked that analogy with the idea of multiple dimensions layered on top of each other, being like different channels on a television set. You just change the channel and you got a different perception of what you're viewing.
Yes.
Which is very much a quantum
physics. It's really
physics.
a different reality. It's a different reality, but it's right here. And it's populated by people who were once in body and now are out of, basically they're in different bodies, in a different reality that's right in the same place. One of the reasons it took me so long to actually write the book was it was hard for me to figure out how it was possible for there to be, two things are hard to figure out. How is it possible for all these levels, many of them are solid, to exist exactly in the same place, which is what the evidence told us was the case. And the second question I had was, how is it possible for your mind to survive your death when your brain has died and decayed? And so I explained briefly in the book what I learned about your mind and how mind works and what mind actually is, and also what I learned about how reality works, which took me several years to figure out because I'd never even taken physics in high school.
Now,
it's a big hobby. In other words, it's a big topic. It takes a long time to do this research if you do it for yourself. So therefore, what I've done with the fun of dying is to explain what I learned and then to give a study guide. So don't take my word for it. Read some of the books that are available that will help you understand, where I got what I got and why I put it together as I did. And people who've done that have told me it only took a few books and they started saying, okay, absolutely right, you're right, which is great.
I know there's...
Well, as I said...
Go ahead.
I was going to say, as I started mentioning before we went on the air, about a third of your book is the sources and appendices and everything to back up everything that you convey in the book. I was curious. I haven't had a chance to really read all through those yet, but I was curious if you ever read Michael Talbot's The Holographic Universe.
Yes, one of the best books to read on this subject, if you want to understand how life works, is Michael Talbot's The Holographic Universe. It's one of the books I cite in the study guide. Wonderful, extraordinary book.
I was curious because that is one of my favorite books, and as my friend said,
20 years old. This information is 20 years old.
Yeah.
This book came out. It was a bestseller. Why does not everybody already know this stuff?
I know. And so
why is it being ignored?
Now, I know.
I think he was born just to write that book because he died soon after. He was a young man. He died soon after it was published. He wanted to bug out of here as soon as he could. But he brought us that information, and everybody should read that book.
Now, I know there's some people that believes in reincarnation. Do you see that also, or you just feel that once you're dead, you're in this other plateau and with your energy out there?
Well, no, here's the thing. Very little that we think is true is actually true. You've almost got to take your whole knowledge base down to zero and build it up again, because our senses tell us absolutely untrue things. And one of the big liars in our lives is our clocks. Time is an illusion. Time isn't real. Time in the afterlife is perfectly subjective. It's not real. And in reality, things like reincarnation happen, but they don't happen as we think they do. The first thing you need to understand is all your historical past and future lives are happening at the same time as your present life, to the extent we can talk about time. And one of the ways we know this is that one of the things people do and use reincarnation for is past life regression. If you have a phobia of being in the dark or something, and you're with a therapist who knows what he or she is doing, they can take you to the lifetime in which you died locked in a wall or some such thing. That's where the phobia came from. And in fact, just having a memory of that life will cure it. Well, the people who are most adept at past life regression have discovered that you can just as easily take people to the future lifetime in which they have this horrible death, which causes the phobia. It's not linear. Time is not linear. One of the very, very advanced beings who's been channeled have said, look, reincarnation happens not the way you think. The best way to think about reincarnation is to think of yourself as a bucket out of which each lifetime is dipped and then back into which each lifetime is poured. So you're a much greater entity, and this life that you're having now and that you had in the 1700s and you'll have in the year 2929, all those lives are part of you, and they're all happening at once. Have I boggled you? I'm sorry, but it's important to understand this, because if we insist on thinking in religious terms and in human terms and don't try to really understand what's going on, it gets very hard to make sense of it, because we're making assumptions that just are not real, not accurate.
Now, you had mentioned in the book, as you just mentioned now, that time being nonlinear. In fact, I once heard an EVP of somebody saying time is different here.
Yes, it is, very.
Now, considering how deep into the afterlife experience some of the reports get, is it probable or even possible that what seems to them, they perceive time, their experience there being a long period of time, whereas it's only a few moments while they're being resuscitated back here?
You're talking about someone who's having a near-death experience?
Well, yeah, because I figure that's the best way someone would actually tell you what had happened.
Well, no. Current information, a lot of current information comes from near-death experiences, because it's only really in the last 60, 70, 80 years that people have been, a lot of people have been resuscitated. They've always happened, but they've been rare prior to modern medicine. But to answer your, in fact, most of the information that I use in The Fun of Dying is 80 to 100 years old. That's when a lot of the best evidence was produced, and it's just a tragedy that people didn't learn about it then, because you would have been born to people who taught you from birth that your life was eternal, because in fact it is, and we've known it for more than 100 years. But to answer your question, you're right. It's possible for people to be out for just a few minutes or hardly even at all, and for them to have had a long experience during that time, what felt like a long experience in the afterlife dimensions.
Cool.
I have a question from the chat room. Moofy wants to know, what are you basing your premise on?
Which premise?
That I do not know.
Okay, well, let me just tell you where the evidence. I'll tell you where the evidence comes from.
She's already answered.
We have a lot of thousands of recorded accounts that go back, some of them almost 200 years, from dead people. They come through mediums, and the best mediums were deep trance mediums in the early part of the 20th century, produced volumes and volumes of data which was independently verifiable and came from dead people. There are recorded cases of near-death experiences and visions, and these are also, by the time, deathbed visions. And if you read one of these accounts, you just, oh, interesting story. If you read 1,000 of them, and they're all produced at different times in different ways, and they're all describing the same reality, you start to say, okay, that's probably what happens because it's so consistent. I thought when I started doing this research that I was hoping half of what I read would be consistent with other stuff, and only half of it would be, somebody's flaky idea, we all turn purple at death or whatever, I have no idea. But it turns out everything I've read, and I've read thousands of accounts from dead people, everything I've read is consistent with everything else. It's a big, complex reality, but it's all consistent evidence. So it's impossible, statistically, for that not to be true. What got me, though, it was very recently, having been a devout Christian all my life, I was very troubled that this was not consistent with Christian teaching, extremely troubled, until one day I sat down and read the Gospels about 5 years ago, and this is why I had to write The Fun of Dying. A lot of what we know actually was told to us 2,000 years ago. It's all in the Gospels. We don't understand until we look at the afterlife evidence some of what Jesus said, because he was talking about stuff which we could not corroborate it until the 20th century. What?
And I love the way you deal with that aspect in the book, that it's not what I call bonk bonk on the head, because a lot of people could take the opportunity of saying, this is the Christian way, blah blah blah, and you take it in a very neutral way. I'm very impressed with that.
Well, the reality is that in fact I have found no evidence in all my decades of studying this stuff. I've found no evidence that it's only Christians who get there, or that you have to do anything magical or religious to get to the afterlife levels. I have, though, found that the way to get there and to get to the highest levels, to make the most spiritual progress, is to do what Jesus said, which is learn to love perfectly, learn to forgive completely. Turns out the reason the universe exists is it's our school for learning to love and forgive. No more complicated than that.
I have another question from the chat room. This is from Simone. She wants to know if somebody is being resuscitated, do they get to choose to live or go to the spirit world?
Well, it all depends. We have the extreme power to use our own minds. We have no idea how powerful our minds are, and knowing that, it's a decision that you can make on multiple levels. So it's hard to say if Mary has a near-death experience and is about to get resuscitated. Of course, she'll be given that choice. Mary's higher self may have chosen that it's time for her to go, because before she was born, she and her guides and her close family and friends and people she'll interact with in this lifetime and their guides wrote a very complex lesson plan for all of them, so that they could work together and learn and grow. And her lesson plan may call for her to leave the earth at the age of 43 or whatever in this particular way. In that case, even if she said, I'm thinking twice about this, probably her guides would say, look, it's time for you to leave because Arthur and Sam and Judy and all these other people need your death now in their lives as part of their growth process. So this isn't like an amusement park ride. This is a school, and it's taken very seriously by our minds and by all the other minds. But there are a lot of cases of people who have had near-death experiences where they're told they have a choice, which means one of two things. Either it was an accidental near-death, and that's very rare. Even what we think is an accident usually is a planned exit point. But nearly all of us plan 2 or 3 exit points into our lives, possible exit points, which are sort of accidents or illnesses or something, which we, our higher self, can choose to make the death date for that entity, that person. And it may well be that was actually a chosen exit point, and we just chose not to take it, and so we came back. I'm sorry to make the answer so complicated, but it's a process. It's much more complicated and much more important than we realize.
You keep thinking your replies are, well, I guess to someone who hasn't read the book, it might seem a little tricky, but having read the book, it's almost self-evident. All your replies and responses so far, just so you know.
Well, and I'm trying. I mean, if I'm being too complex, let me know, because I'm trying not to be. This is a very complex topic, and in the fun of dying, what I've tried to do is to make it simple, because ultimately it is. There are a few basic facts people need to know. The first is that your mind is eternal. It's impossible for it to die. The second is everything you think is real is actually illusion. The only thing that's real is mind. And when you start from there, it becomes easier to understand, the complexity of it all.
I have another question from Simone from the chat room. How do people get lost or trapped in between worlds?
That's a good question, Simone. Thank you. It turns out, and one of the reasons I wrote The Fun of Dying is that I came to understand that it's not an automatic process. We don't just die and poof, we're in the next level. But there are a lot of things that can go wrong. We've known for more than 100 years that when someone is undergoing a natural death, people will come, they'll see their grandma and other people all looking young and wonderful in the room as they're dying. And I've come to understand the reason for that is probably because if they don't have people come and greet them and help them make the transition, they may not make it successfully. Because what happens is that your body dies, your mind leaves that body or just switches out of it, but doesn't necessarily go to another channel. It's like you're between channels at that point. And you're alarmed. I mean, there's your family is all crying around the bed. You're trying to get their attention. Say, I'm okay. Everything is fine. And then if you don't quickly go with people who are there to try to rescue you, you'll lose your ability to see those people. You become so focused on this level of reality that even though you don't have a body and you can't communicate with anybody here, you're stuck here. And those are classic ghosts. They don't know that time is passing. They still think in an old house that's been rehabbed, doors closed up and stuff, those people are still living in the house as it looked before. In their mind, it's exactly the way it was when they died, which is why sometimes people see ghosts go through walls. There was a door there at one point. They still see the door. That's one way people can get stuck. Another way people can get stuck, I'm sorry?
Go ahead.
Well, another way people can get stuck is to be either fearful of if you're very afraid of going to hell, you may decide to stay here. People have the power to say, no, I'm not going. But you're still out of your body. You're still stuck. And there are a lot of the most evil entities. We talked about shadow people. And really there are some fairly demonic entities which can trouble you if you're not careful to guard yourself against them. A lot of those entities are apparently people who knew they were not going to necessarily fare well when they got to the next level because hell yawned before them. They decided to stay, and this is one reason why one should never play with Ouija boards unless you're a very, very careful, advanced being yourself, because you can attract those entities to you just like a magnet. I have never found any evidence that there's a devil. I don't believe there is one, especially since the lower someone's spiritual energy is, the weaker you are in every way. So these demonish people are very weak, but that doesn't mean they can't try to cause trouble, and what they mainly try to do is scare you. That appears to be the only amusement they have. But there are other ways, too, less common, that you can get stuck, but those are a couple of the biggest.
Now,
I have an.
go ahead. You got one?
Yeah, I have another question from the chat room, and I think Simone's going to buy your book, Roberta.
Oh boy, Simone!
Wants,
I wish I could autograph it for you.
She'd like to know, what if they don't have any friends or family to go to? I guess they're the first to go to speak. What happens then?
To begin, if you, there's always somebody. It may be someone who is a friend or from another lifetime or other lifetimes. We have a big social circle there, and we have wonderful reunions. I mean, usually, for many of us, the guide who helped us through this lifetime is someone who has been incarnated with us in other lifetimes that just chose to, for your sake and that person's sake, chose to spend this lifetime being your guide. It's a way for them to grow too. So none of us are alone. But there's a wonderful story of a deathbed vision. This was told by Sir William Barrett in his 1926 book, Deathbed Visions, which is a classic. I recommend it to everybody, and it's short, and it's easy to read, and it's just very enjoyable. But the psychic nurse was sitting around the turn of the previous century, was sitting at a deathbed of a very cranky old hermit of a man, just hated everybody. She could see he was dying, and he was surly, and she felt very wrenched about what can I do to comfort him. And into the room walked a gigantic white horse, and the man looked up, his face filled with joy, he lifted his arms, and he died. That horse was the only friend he had, and that horse came to get him.
Wow.
That's pretty interesting. I do have a question also from the chat room. This is from Ceiling Cat, and she wants to know, do you think that the Tibetan Book of the Dead instructions are an accurate portrayal of the encounters met by the recently deceased?
No, but I think the Tibetan Book of the Dead is, like all religious books, is based in fact. The problem that we have with all religions, and I exclude no religion when I say this, is that all of them have some truth which came through very advanced beings, which came through people who may have had a rare deathbed experience or whatever. And the religions construct a whole theology around these singular experiences. And the Tibetan Book of the Dead is an excellent example. There's an Egyptian Book of the Dead, too. They're very good examples of very, very careful efforts to put it all together, and they did the best they could for their time, but because they didn't have the knowledge we have today, and we don't have the knowledge they'll have in 100 years, they'll know more than we, they were not able to fully explain the death process and what comes after it. Death isn't a subject separate from everything else. It's integral to what's going on in the universe, and it's hard to separate it out as religious books do.
Now, did you have another question?
I did actually.
Okay.
Earlier, you had mentioned how some people are higher beings sometimes will come and help people go across because they've had, trying to word this properly as you said it, because it was their time, and sometimes that their death actually helps other people in their own personal growth. There's a stage play that my brother was in many years ago called Greetings by Tom Dudzik. I don't know, are you in the chat room at all, or are you logged into the chat room at all, Roberta?
No, I'm sorry. I have my computer closed so I can concentrate on you.
That's okay. And you also need to really send us an ad. There are like 8,000 Roberta Grimes on Facebook.
Are there really? I don't know anybody else. My own. If you want to contact me, the best way to contact me, there's a website called RobertaGrimes.com, and that's me, that foolish-looking lawyer. You can also reach me through funofdying.com, and I answer all those emails.
Yeah, I've got that. But my thing is in this play, it's a very it's kind of a comedy, but it's also very powerful, as uplifting as your book, about a family that's having certain communication issues and all that, and they have a mentally challenged adult son, and into this son walks an enlightened higher energy being, that spends Christmas Eve with the family, much to their both fascination and freak outness, as it were. And at one point, one of the characters asks, because she believes she's an atheist, because when she was very young, her baby sister went into the street, was hit by a car, and she has always wanted to know why that was. And the entity named Lucius says, "I have an answer, but it's not one you'll like." And she says, "Well, try me." He says, "It is possible that she was as much pre-choosing that death for this lifetime than you would think."
Yes. When children die, children being even up to early 20s, it's very often, in fact, we're told when young children die always, that was a very advanced being who chose the gift to the family of coming in and dying that way to help the family members to grow. These are not tragedies, in other words. The death of a child is a gift from that child. And when you hear about these children, I know this may be hard for people to hear, but to mince truth or what we know is not helpful either. I have a very dear friend who had two twin boys. When they were 2.5, he was playing with them on the ocean, lost track of one of them, and that child drowned. Subsequently, when we talked about his baby, I didn't know the child, I just knew the father. He said, well, the other boy, all the pets were afraid of him. With this little child, the cat would come and sit in his lap and be petted by him. He was so unafraid of this child. This was a very, very advanced being who came into that family's life. And I won't spend time telling you all the gifts that tragic death brought to that family, but it's clear to all of the people now that that's what it was. It was a gift. When an infant dies, very often that child will reincarnate in the same family very quickly, and give evidence of having been the baby they lost 2 years ago, whatever.
Now, in your book, you even said that sometimes stillborns and fetuses and such can be waiting for their mothers on the other side.
Yes.
At what age would they be, or appear to be?
They're always young adults.
Oh, okay.
The babies grow up there in what we would think of as just a few years, and so then they're young adults. But one of the things that people should know is that indisputably, based on the afterlife evidence, a fetus, I don't know how young this goes, but very, very early gestation fetus is a being, and that being is lovingly rescued by angels. Literally, most of us don't see angels routinely, but little children do, and raised in special villages that are where they carefully restrict the access of other people to those villages, and these children have perfect, beautiful childhoods. It's almost as if the hierarchies are reversed. An aborted fetus that's thrown away here is lovingly, reverently raised and treasured and cherished in the afterlife. And if you've had abortions, it's very likely that among the people greeting you will be all those aborted people. They'll be there as adults. And I think knowing that, I certainly would never want to have an abortion, because it's something that you cannot escape. Those people will be there waiting for you.
With their arms crossed, tapping their foot, saying,
"What took you so long?"
Actually, yeah, well, that's true. Yeah, where you been? Lovingly, we understand that they treat their parents who threw them away as beloved parents.
Huh.
Time is just run right on by. We are already getting some great questions from the listeners. But we're going to end up taking a break here, and I think what we'll do is right before we do the break, we're going to do the Spotlight Reporter from Patty. So give us a time to go take a little break. I think the Spotlight Report tonight's like somewhere close to 5 minutes. Then we'll come back right after that and say a few things before we go on break. So everybody just stay tuned while we listen to Patty and the Spotlight Report. So here we go with that. So stay tuned. You're listening to the Paranormal View right here on the ParaX Radio Network.
Welcome, everyone. This is Pat Lynham, the Spotlight Reporter for the Paranormal View on the ParaX Radio Network. This week's Spotlight Report, I have the pleasure of speaking with 𝘋𝘺𝘧 Reynolds, Ghost Soldier, paranormal researcher. Hi, Doug. This is Doug from Ghost Soldiers from Pennsylvania. Welcome to my show.
How you doing, Patty?
Good. First of all, why don't you just tell me about Ghost Soldiers and who's in it and when you got started and let everyone know what's...
Okay. My name is Doug from Ghost Soldiers. I got involved in the paranormal about 2.5, 3 years ago. Pat had a group earlier than that for about 4.5 years now, and there was room on the team for an extra person, so I asked him if it would be okay, and he said sure, and gave me a bunch of books to read, and he said start studying up on it, study up on your equipment, start buying some toys, and that's what I did, and bought some paranormal investigating equipment, and been doing it ever since.
I noticed that on your website, one of your favorite places is the Burlington County Prison Museum. Can you tell me a little bit about that history?
Yes, the Burlington County Prison's in Mount Holly, New Jersey. That was one of my first investigations that I got for the team. I had called Pat up and told him that they do paranormal investigations in Burlington County Prison. So he says, well, you're in New Jersey, go ahead and set it up. Burlington County Prison is the only prison that was in existence for 165 years. Most of the inmates were in there for all kinds of crimes because back in the 1800s, they didn't really have a lot of prisons. The prison that's in Burlington County was built by Robert Mills. He was also later known to build the U.S. Monument and different parts in Washington, D.C. We enjoyed it a lot. It was our first investigation. A lot of the EVPs that we got when we did our investigation there was from a lot of the inmates that had stayed there, and from John 𝘋𝘺𝘯. He was one of the only ones to be hung at Burlington Prison.
Oh, really? What was he hung for?
He stabbed his wife. His wife was cheating on him, and he didn't want her to be with anybody else, so he stabbed her 13 times, and then admitted to it in court, and he says, yeah, I killed her.
Wow. What year was that?
That was in 1946, I believe.
Can you tell me about the woman that was pregnant and the history and what you have, what kind of evidence you have come up with at this place?
Yeah, we've come up with orbs responding to our commands. We start talking and doing EVPs. We have orbs flying around the room right next to us, which we have on film. The woman that was in there came in for a minor fraction to be put in prison. When she was in prison, she was pregnant and gave birth to it. A lot of the inmates got upset over that, and eventually the baby was killed, but nobody knows who killed the baby. The EVP that we have on our website, you can actually hear the baby crying. A lot of the EVPs we got are from the cook downstairs. We actually got the cook chopping vegetables.
Okay. Could you also, can you list your website and how people can get in touch with you?
Absolutely. You can go to ghostsoldiersparanormal.com, or you can go to ghostsoldiers.tv.
And also, one last thing before we have to sign off here, Doug. You've been just a wonderful person to speak with and full of lots of information. I really appreciate it.
Go ahead.
Could you tell us what you use for equipment? Just some specific?
Yes, I use a millimeter T2 for most of my investigation, EMF detector, temperature gauge. I have 3 different cameras that I also use. I use a Sony SR10 with night vision capability. I also have a T11, which is a camera that I use. It's a little handheld camera, slips well in the top pocket for doing, taking pictures day or night. I also have my Fuji SI 1500 that I use. A lot of those I use for outside shots for our show, which is a lot of fun. I enjoy that camera a lot.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Doug, spending your time with me. I really, really appreciate it. Thank you, everyone, for listening to the Spotlight Report. This is Pat Lina with the Paranormal View on the ParaX Radio Network.
Thank you, Patty. Another great job there. We appreciate it. And if you have a group or anything you'd like spotlighted on our show, you can get in contact with Patty and set a thing up, and she can record you and put you out there. So, now that we're back for just a few seconds before we take a quick break, I want to thank everybody, and I want to remind everybody to stay tuned right after our show for Joe and Tara Vision's online radio. So that's supposed to be a great show tonight, as always. All the shows here on ParaX are great shows. Really appreciate the hard work that Dave and Scott and all the others have put in to make this one of the best places for paranormal programming. Really appreciate that. I think what we'll do is we're going to go ahead and take a quick 5-minute break right now. So I'm going to have Jeff. Why don't you take us out, and we can go take a quick break.
Well, everybody, you're listening to the Paranormal View on para-x.com with our lovely and talented guest, Roberta Grimes, author of The Fun of Dying, What Really Happens Next. Come back after the break, and we've got another almost hour and a half. Well, hour and a quarter.
Sounds good. Be right back. Welcome back, everybody, to the Paranormal View right here on the ParaX Radio Network. Great chat room tonight, full of people, and no matter where you're listening from around the world, we appreciate each and every one. But if you're not here in the chat room, please come over to para-x.com, click on live chat at the top, and you'll be in with all these wonderful people, and you can interact with us by sending us messages for or questions for the guest. So please come on over. We want to welcome back Roberta Grimes here with myself and Craig Rupp and Jeffrey Gould. So welcome back, everybody.
So how far are our listeners today?
Well,
who's our most distant?
I did check a little bit ago, but I'll check again. If you've got some questions, go ahead, and then I'll let you know where they're from.
Let's see. What can I say? Oh, you had mentioned, did you ever have a chance to meet, or obviously I think she may have died too early, Elizabeth Kubler-Ross or Raymond Moody?
I have met Raymond Moody many years ago. I never met Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, who's one of my heroes. They both are actually heroes. People who are interested in this should read Moody's new book, which is Glimpses of Eternity. In it, he talks about, he was the one who coined the term near-death experiences. He wrote the first book on it, on the topic, modern book on the topic of near-death experiences, and he coined the term. Well, he has discovered that there are many people who, quietly, without telling anybody about it unless they're asked, have joined in the death experiences of loved ones. And Glimpses of Eternity is about the experience of being at a deathbed and participating in the experience of the person who's dying. It's quite a remarkable book.
I had gotten to meet.
I recommend that one for sure.
Yeah,
and that came out after The Fun of Dying, so it's not in the study guide, but it will be in the next edition study guide.
Oh, cool. I got to meet Elizabeth Kubler-Ross when she spoke at my college back in the early 80s.
Lucky you!
I know. Somewhere I've got her signed book of Life After Life.
I have a question from the chat room.
Go right ahead.
Simone, it's about chapter 6 actually, which I wanted to say a little bit about. I've helped some families who've had some tragedies, and chapter 6 seems to be a big help to them. Simone would like to know, you talk about going into surgery after death to repair an illness during life. Would this include disease such as cancer?
No. Your body has cancer. Your body has Alzheimer's disease. Your body has broken or missing limbs. Your mind doesn't have any of that. But except in cases where you are convinced you have those injuries, and being in a new body doesn't make them go away. I give the example of a young man who was received an injury in World War I and to his genital area. This is a true story. This is a story which comes out of the afterlife evidence that I've studied. That's very, very old. And he got a new body, but he still couldn't believe that he was functional. And so what they will sometimes do in cases like that, if you still believe you're paralyzed, if you still believe you have some impairment of any kind, they will tell you, well, we're going to have to do surgery, and they'll do a fake surgery and go through the whole process. And the operating room will even look like whatever you think it should look like, and it will just seem very real. And then they'll tell you they've cured whatever they cured. Now, in the case of this young fellow, they did all that. It still didn't work. He still believed he was basically a eunuch. So what they did in this case was to put him into a sleep and put a lovely young woman, also in spirit, into bed with him. And that convinced him pretty quickly that he was, in fact, functional. There isn't sex. There's no need for it, obviously, for procreation, and there are many more pleasurable things, to believe it or not, to do there than that. So sex isn't done necessarily in the afterlife, but if it's needed to help you realize that you're healed from whatever was wrong on earth, you can have that. You get whatever you need. Newly dead people are treated like soldiers who've come back from a very heroic war, and they need to be fixed, they need to be repaired and made whole again. And there are great, tremendous teams there trying to make that all happen for us so that we can just enjoy our post-death period.
Now, I know you was talking also about there are 7 levels that is supposed to be.
Yes. There actually are more than 7 levels. It's sort of like if you had primary channels on your television, and then there were a lot of channels in between that you also could hit. But when the upper level beings talk to us, they talk about 7 afterlife levels. And understand that each of these afterlife levels appears to be at least as big as the universe. They're huge. They're tremendous. People worry that maybe heaven is crowded. It's much less crowded than Earth. And there are so many places in each of those afterlife levels that there appears to be one or more areas for each human civilization. So that, for example, the Plains Indians civilization still exists on big, huge plains, where people who had a lifetime as a Plains Indian can, basically have their summerland, remembering that there's no such thing as time. That's all happening at the same time as ours is. And there are wonderful stories told about how the Plains Indians are actually so spiritual that people are brought to them who have had great traumas on Earth as another way of healing them. That they spend time with the Plains Indians, and they're basically healed and whole again spiritually. But it's bogglingly big. It's just, and because there's no such thing as space either, we have no trouble with the fact that it's tremendous, because we can go anywhere we want by thought. We can go from one end of the universe to the other just as in a flash, and not even be aware of moving, just by wanting to be there.
Now, I know that the Bible also talks about different levels. I have a book called The Lost Books of the Bible of the Garden of Eden. And in the book of Enoch, he talks where an angel took him to all the different levels, and he describes what each level was. Would that be similar to the levels that you talk about?
The Bible is another of the religious books which are, in fact, the reported experiences of people. I can't vouch, though, for what his report was. I've read the Bible a number of times, probably at least 7 or 8. I used to have a practice of reading it every day back when I was such a devout Christian. But the only part of the Bible which to me is factually accurate and we can show is accurate is what Jesus said in the Gospels. Almost all of it. I'd say 95% of what Jesus said in the Gospels is absolutely consistent with what we are now learning. We couldn't have confirmed his words were true for 2,000 years. And that's such a, statistically, it's impossible for that to be coincidence. We've basically proven that Jesus was a real being who actually was directly communicating with God. So anybody who's annoyed with me because they're a Christian and I'm saying that the Christians don't have it right, well, Jesus is the real deal. We can prove that.
If you have questions, private chat Craig or Jeffrey or myself, and if you have questions for Roberta, and we'll get them right to her.
I should add too that Chapter 6, I believe, is on the website funofdying.com. So if you want to read that, it's there for free. I'm pretty sure that's the one that's there. I haven't looked in a while, but I'm pretty sure that's the one that they put up. I wanted people to have that information if they couldn't afford the book, or because the book is inexpensive. Amazon now sells it for like $13.50, I think, $13.45 or something like that.
Well, now,
so it's inexpensive.
Got a question. What drives us after death? If we have no body, how do we speak or see or hear?
We have a body. We have a body. The body is just not this body. Everybody the first place we go after death is solid. This is true of everybody. The lowest after death level is what Jesus called the outer darkness. It's not hot. It's very cold, and it is the worst place you could possibly imagine. Smelly, dark, ugly, full of demonish people. I say in The Fun of Dying, think of midnight on a garbage dump with dogs around you. It's trying to eat you. It's a horrible place.
So essentially, it's like Washington, D.C. Oh, wait.
Well, more like yes, that's true. Yes, well, that's right, a good analogy. Above that is level 2, and that's a little better. That's sort of a rehab area from level 1. Levels 3 through 5 are what many people call the Summerland. That's a Viking term. I guess that was the happiest thing that Vikings could think of, would be in summer forevermore. And it's possible to ski in the Summerland. There in some of the the Summerland is very culture specific. As I said with the Plains Indians, if you die in a foreign country, you probably will be taken to that region's Summerland, and then you'll be rescued by your relatives from there. But basically, all the Summerlands become less and less culturally dependent until by level 5, there's one Summerland, basically. The Summerland is beautiful. It's solid. It looks like the most perfect earth scenes you could imagine. Most British and North American people are taken to a Summerland which is full of bright, brilliant flowers. Some of the colors are not seen on Earth because they're not dependent on the visible light spectrum. The light is diffuse. There's no sun. There's no stars. There's no night. It's just always beautiful. And we have bodies there which are as we want to be perceived. Most of us choose to be somewhere in our 20s or 30s in appearance and in vigor because that's sort of the peak of our lifetimes in terms of health, perhaps. I don't know why, but most people there look like they're around 30 years old. And those bodies are perfectly solid, happy, comfortable. Many people who are communicating with us from there say, you don't know it, guys. This is real life. Where they are then, where they are in the Summerland, that's real. This is the illusion.
Now, that's interesting. That was something I had wanted to ask because I had always heard the Vikings and such refer to the afterlife as Valhalla or sometimes Elysium. Summerland, I've only heard as an afterlife in the pagan and neo-pagan community.
Yes, but it came from the Vikings.
Okay.
The concept of a beautiful, happy place full of flowers came from the Vikings, is my understanding. It's been used in by people doing afterlife research probably for 100 years. When I wrote The Fun of Dying, I was very acutely aware of the fact that people have religious beliefs, and I don't want to step on those. Whatever your religion is, I'm not trying to change it. That's fine. You should do whatever you and your conscience and your God want you to do. But therefore, I don't use the term heaven. Instead, I use Summerland. I try not to use terms which are going to make people have a preconceived notion in their heads. We have found God. God is indisputably real. But God is not at all like what most of us have in our heads. No beard, no body. God, in fact, is all that actually exists. Everything else that exists is just part of God. We are all part of God. Our minds are so interconnected that we're all one being, and that being is God. So I try not to refer to God I've been giving a lot of talks. A lot of people are fascinated by what I've learned about the truth that Jesus came to tell us, which really I don't think Christianity has paid much attention to, even before knowing that they were actually true. So I've been speaking in churches and been well received there. And I tell people I no longer really talk about God. When I pray, I don't pray to God. I pray to mind, because mind is all that exists. You could call it God if you like, but there's no beard and there's no body. And instead, there is much, much more love and power and glory in the genuine God than there is in anything any religion has ever told you about. Infinite love, absolutely nothing but love. And that's all of our goals. That's what we're here to learn. We're in preschool, and our goal is reunion with God.
Now,
there's a lot more to this than just dying, as you can see. It's really about living even more than dying. One of the great things about learning more about the afterlife is that it teaches you how to live your life now. Your life now is much more important than you ever guessed. It's a tremendous privilege to be here and to have these lessons to use to learn and grow. The last chapter of The Fun of Dying is a beginning of trying to understand how actually to learn these lessons. Because the kind of loving and forgiving we're meant to be learning is much, much more radical than what most of us think of in terms of loving and forgiving. I mean, love people. I don't love him. I don't like him at all. It doesn't matter. We have to love everybody. That's the goal. And forgiving people who do horrendous things, it's not supposed to matter what they did. We're supposed to forgive them as if nothing was ever done.
So now
that's the exercise.
I'm a big baseball nut. So once I'm dead and over there, does that mean that I can come out of the cornfield in Iowa and play baseball every day?
Yes, in fact, that's true. One of the things that we learn when we do this research is that there are many more things to do there. Anything you can do here, any of the sports, any of the crafts or activities you can do there. With a great advantage of the fact that the weather's always good and it's always daylight and your body never gets tired. You can be doing different stuff all the time, day and night. I mean, there is no night. Forever, you can go from one happy activity to another. Lots of playing of sports, but there it's less spectator and more with your wonderful young body. You get to do it yourself.
That's good.
People play golf and all the sports, as I said. People sail. There are oceans and lakes, but they're meant to seem to be big, but they're not. It's almost like a movie set kind of ocean and lake. But you can do all those things. My horse, who died at almost 30, I've had it's not a lucid dream, it's a communication dream from my horse, and he's waiting for me. And that's the first thing I intend to do when I get there is get on his back and ride again.
At least you know he has a stable environment.
Yes, that's true. He certainly does. He's very happy. And boy, is he young and beautiful now. Oh, my goodness. That's another thing we should mention, which is that people ask, well, what about our pets? Every animal that was loved by a human being is waiting for us there. That's good news and bad news. If people have had a lot of pets that they loved, they're all going to be there. What happens, we're told in practice, is that loved ones care for these pets, or you don't have to walk them, you don't have to feed them, so it's a lot easier to take care of them, and they're always all young and healthy. And when you arrive, you probably will choose to live with some of them and have some of them live with other people who maybe didn't have pets in life but would like a dog or a cat or a horse or whatever. Farm animals and circus animals are there too, but of course fairly few of them because fewer of them have had this love relationship with a human being.
I hope my kids are listening. That'll make them very happy.
Well, It's great. You know, when you put your dog to sleep, the dog is not going to resent that he was put to sleep, because he's young and healthy now. He was old and decrepit. He had an illness, or she, and now that dog or cat is young and healthy and playing and having fun. And because time is so different there, it's going to seem like a minute. And you'll all follow that pet, and you'll all be together again.
Now,
I mean, to me, that's all good news. I think that's fabulous.
Exactly. No, I've got a couple of dogs and a number of cats that are going to be waiting for me.
I've got another question from the chat room. It said, my family was very dysfunctional. Is there a choice to be with them after death? I mean, I guess, do I have to be with them, or can I be somewhere else?
Well, the answer is you can do whatever you want. You know, the Jesus says they neither marry nor give in marriage, and there isn't any marriage there. But you may find they're not the same as they were when they were here. Because while they're here, they sort of forget that this is all an illusion, and they're only in school, and they are trying to learn their lessons, and maybe they didn't do so well. They got a D in some of those lessons, and they were not good to live with. When they're there, they get it a whole lot more. And you may find they're very different. We're told that in the parties, and there's usually a big sort of welcoming party when you first get there, people who were your enemies in life will come up to you and slap you on the back and hug you and be so glad to see you. It's very different than here. Because there they understand that this is not real. And the evil things we did here, we all have to forgive each other for those things. But if you don't want to be with them, you don't have to be with them. It's all up to you.
That's good.
Now, one thing the book indicated that a lot of times family members who are waiting for you to finally get around to joining them will sometimes construct homes for them.
Yeah.
Now, and I found amusing also the husband that actually created a mirror image home, and the other who put on a tin that he'd always wanted that she didn't. Like,
yeah. But husbands are like that, aren't they? Yes. The process of constructing these homes is not with hammer and nail. Almost never is it that. But the spouse will work with very advanced beings to design the house based on the house on Earth, and then the advanced beings basically think it into existence. It's a very simple process, and it becomes a solid, building surrounded by beautiful gardens and flowers. And Jesus said, in my Father's house are many rooms or many mansions, depending on how it's translated. In fact, it's full of homes that people have built for loved ones, that they can have a time dwelling in a house there, which is very like something that they loved here. Often they're exactly the same as the house that the family lived on in, maybe their favorite house on Earth. He says, I go to prepare a place for you. Well, he was preparing a place for his loved ones, his disciples and friends. He was going to build their homes there. And then back then, of course, a house was a room, so the house and room meant the same thing. And then he said, and I will come to take you, that you also may be where I am. Well, that also happens because our loved ones come and take us from the place where we've died and bring us to this afterlife energy level. Quite remarkable, but that's not poetry. He was giving them the practical description of what it's actually like to die and what it's like there. Anything, you know how they say you can't take it with you? That's another thing that's not true. If you get to the middle Summerland levels, anything that you want, that you miss from Earth, you just think about it, and it's there in your house. I don't know why that is. I think it's people who get there are fascinated by that fact. I was thinking about my childhood little blue bunny, and I looked in there. It was right there in the house. I think it may be because they're trying to get us past caring about material things. I mean, I'd like an entire room full of gold. Well, there it is. Well, it doesn't mean anything there, but because you don't need money, everything is free. But I think that may be why this happens. But during the Summerland period of your existence, you can have whatever you want.
I know everybody most of the people in the chat room who know me really well knows that I'm really looking forward to my own TARDIS.
To your what?
My own TARDIS. It's a reference to a British TV science fiction show. Essentially it's a blue box the size of a phone booth, but inside it's massive. It's another dimension
okay.
inside.
Oh, well, and they would get that there, totally. Sure. I'm sure they'd let you have one of those.
Oh,
It's it's meant to be fun. Clearly, it's almost as if you could imagine the most loving and doting parent trying to do the best possible, most wonderful things for the most beloved child. That's how each of us is treated. We're really, really loved and cared for and given whatever it is we need to kind of get over what is seen as a very tough experience, and that's this brief period on Earth.
Well, interestingly enough, you had mentioned earlier about the animals that have been loved by a human being. Kat in the chat room has an interesting way, and it came to my mind too, but I was like, I don't know if I want to go there. But she actually asks, as only animals that have been loved by a human being will be there, would the rest aren't valued by humans, so would they have no worth in the afterlife? Or are there simply animals?
Remember, our minds are energy. Mind energy exists. I think that what we think of as life actually is also mind energy. It's been found that individual plant cells can read our minds. So if that's the case, I don't know how far down it goes, but it goes down pretty far. All energy is eternal. It can't die. But if, say, a deer out in the woods dies, it doesn't have as the illusion of a differentiated being. So it joins the energy, the mind energy of all other deer. It doesn't. There's eventually, in fact, you might say in some ways they may be more advanced than we are, because eventually we will all join the mind energy of God more directly. We think we're separate now, but we're not. And it appears that animals develop a separate existence because you wouldn't think it was heaven if your dog wasn't there. I wouldn't think certainly it was heaven if my horse wasn't there.
Exactly.
So they develop a separate existence for a time to be with us. And that seems to be what's going on, but there is no such thing as death. Nothing ever dies. Matter is an illusion created by mind, and it changes form. That's all that happens to your body, but mind energy never does.
That's I was raised in Christian Science, and that was very much the precepts that mind is eternal and matter is that life is incorporeal, and that matter is mortal error. It's just a mistake that we're making in our perceptions. And on the other end, when you were saying that a deer that dies in the forest alone, I figure that deer are used to being alone anyway because they're always going stag. Now,
yes,
Nyla.
There's that.
Now, Nyla in the chat room also has a question. She wonders, is there work there? She literally dreamed she went to heaven and was told she had to keep working in a hospital for pretend patients, and she was leaving heaven when she woke up, which makes me wonder if there's overtime. But personally, I'm thinking maybe she was working in the hospital to sort of help people in their mental surgeries.
We all work there, but we choose our work. Now, we may choose that work based upon the advice of a more ascended being who says you ought to do this or that for your own soul's growth, and so you will. But there are a lot of hospitals there. Many of them are like open-air pavilions. They're not what we would think of as hospitals. So some of them just look like a regular hospital. And they, if someone dies here of a very advanced cancer or something, or has been very traumatized, was killed in a violent way or something, very often they go to hospitals for a time, and they sleep for a time, and then gradually are awakened and made to understand where they are and helped to understand that they don't have the problems they had when they died. So there is a great opportunity to work in hospitals there, caring for people. There's also an opportunity to work with more advanced beings to rescue all the people who got off track. And there's so many other ways to get off track, too. I mean, we talked about getting earthbound. All those people have to be rescued. So if you're working with communicating with spirits and you're in communication with them, you could do a great service to the universe and to all of reality to try to help those people understand they're dead and that there are loved ones there looking for them. Go toward the light. Go toward, do you see your mom around? Go toward that person. I'm not psychic at all, but if I were, I would try to do that as a kind of charity to try to help these people. But they have to be rescued. People in the outer darkness level have to be, all of them, rescued. And many of the rescuers are the very victims of the people they're rescuing. There's
especially if
story.
they seal them, especially when they seal themselves in a box and scream.
Yes. There's a story which I tell in The Fun of Dying of one of the groups of people in the outer darkness who are in the most torment, and it's self-imposed, of course, are people who worked in the Holocaust in the concentration camps. And there is a story told of a guard who had locked himself in an iron box and could not communicate with the outside world, and all they could do was hear him wailing and screaming. And around him are his box, day and night, forever, all the time, are the victims that he tormented and killed, trying to help him understand that they forgive him, everybody forgives him, it was all an illusion, and he's got to forgive himself. But that's always going on in the outer darkness. It's tough duty, and the people who do it the most are very, very advanced beings, because they're impervious to any harm these people could do to them. But you can get it to do it as well, probably in company with a very advanced being. There's a story that's in Life in the World Unseen that I strongly recommend. This is one of the 4 key books that I say you should read. And a lovely young woman had arrived. I don't know how old she was when she died, but she's a lovely young woman now. And they took her to the outer darkness level because they thought she might be able to charm some of these monsters into recognizing that they didn't have to stay in torment. There's another kind of rescue too, which goes on, and that's rescuing people from hollow heavens. Hollow heavens are the places we put ourselves if we're extremely religious. If you're convinced that life after death is a certain way, then you are going to put yourself into exactly what you think is heaven, but it's an illusion. The most common hollow heavens are little steepled churches or clouds. Sometimes the clouds have St. Peter's gates in front of them, and people will end up there, but it's an illusion. So people from the actual Summerland will need to go and explain to them, you seem to have gotten off track. Let's bring you to where you can really be happy and where your loved ones are. So yes, there's a lot of work to do. Those are just 2 kinds of things you can do. A lot of crafts too. If you like to make things, you can make beautiful things there.
I have another question from Simone in the chat room. She would like to know. She would like to know: are our deceased loved ones our guardian angels?
It all depends. The term guardian angel really refers to a spirit guide. Most of us have one spirit guide throughout our lives. Occasionally, that guide will be replaced by a plan because we need to have a different kind of guidance. But usually, the spirit guide is someone who has been incarnated with us and knows us well, and is doing this work of helping us through our lives as part of his or her own growth. When we are trying to do something which is part of our plan that is approved by Spirit, we'll often have experts in whatever that is who will help us. For example, you wanted to be an architect through life. There may be an architect spirit guide who will help you with that. As I was working on The Fun of Dying, I became very aware that I wasn't really in charge, and a psychic friend of mine told me that I actually had 5 guides working with me on the book, and I should just plain listen to them. And one of them was a very, very advanced being. She was actually in awe of the fact that this person was helping me, but the other I was more in awe of was a famous person. And I said, well, why are they doing this? They were all deceased ministers. I said, why are they doing this? And she said, because they want to set the record straight. That's what they all want to do. And I knew I was getting help because as I was writing the book, I would wake up every morning with a list in my head of things to do. Look this up, check that. Sometimes things I hadn't even thought of, and sometimes things I was wondering, did I get that right? And every single one of those changes or research bits or whatever, I did. And I only knew the book was done when I no longer woke up with a list in my head. If I started to get too off track, like I started, we all get big-headed. Oh, look, I'm doing something great. I would wake up in the morning feeling as if I'd been hit upside the head. They made it very clear to me that I'm not an expert on anything. I'm just a messenger, and that's my job. So that's all I am. But if I had the help of disembodied people in writing this book, it would have been full of errors. To this date, I have not found one error that I need to correct.
Now, I want to thank everybody tonight, not only for listening, but for sending in all these questions. I've already got some more, and I wanted to take another quick little break here because our time's running on by, and probably also about a quarter till I'm going to bring in Joe from Visions Online Radio. He has a quick message that he wants to say. So we're going to just run and take a real quick break, probably about 3 minutes, and then we'll be right back and continue on, try and get all these questions answered that we have. So we shall be right back. You're listening to the Paranormal View right here on the ParaX Radio Network. Welcome back, everybody, to the Paranormal View right here on the ParaX Radio Network. I want to thank everybody tonight for listening, no matter where you're listening from. If you're not here with us in the chat room, please come over to para-x.com, click on live chat at the top of the page, and you'll be in with all these wonderful people. We do have a lot of questions. I know I've got a couple more I want to try and get in here real quick because our time is just scooting right on by. And I got one here. It is from Eddie in chat, and he asks if animals have souls.
Yes, soul and mind are the same thing, but they're not two different things. And every living thing, including apparently living cells, has mind at some level. So animals, yes, also have minds, and therefore are eternal. They never began, they never will end. Mind is eternal energy.
Okay.
And how that relates to us, I'm just not sure. There are a lot of things I wish I had more time to try to investigate, because I've gotten tantalizing kind of hints, but I can't investigate them. One of the things I wonder about is whether all of mind is evolving. So, for example, a dog that's really loved by people might eventually evolve into a person. I don't know that. I don't know. I haven't seen enough evidence of it to believe it happens, but I certainly can't rule it out because I don't see the difference in character between animal minds and human minds, just in degree.
Sounds like another book, Roberta.
I don't know. Well, my next one is supposed to be called The Fun of Staying in Touch, and about how they communicate with us and we can communicate with them. And there's a lot more known about that than most people realize. But I haven't even been able to start the book. It's supposed to be out in a year, and I have all the material together, but I've been so busy with this book that I haven't really had time.
Well,
May I also just remind people, the book is called The Fun of Dying, Find Out What Really Happens Next. It's available in bookstores, but the best place to get it is on Amazon.com, and it's available for Kindle, and it's also available at Barnes & Noble for other kinds of book readers. Website is funofdying.com, and I invite everybody to come and try out afterlifeforums.com with an S, afterlifeforums.com. Afterlife Forums is just a couple, 3 months old. It's a website devoted to discussing all this stuff. There is nothing out of bounds. We amazed all kinds of things people ask questions about, and other people answer them. People who are grieving can learn a lot there and get a lot of support there. And people who are just curious or who are trying to learn more can learn a lot there. We post articles. We post all kinds of things. Just getting started. I thought I was just going to be one of the contributors, but I seem to have hogged the thing. So I'm looking for other people to come join us. It's actually adding members at about 100 a week now, which is surprising.
It's pretty good.
Yeah, that's pretty for just starting up. Yeah.
I've got another question from Nyla, and she wants to know: is there a way we can learn to listen to our spirit guides here?
The best way to listen to spirit guides is to pray Samuel's prayer. You know, Samuel's prayer is, "Here I am, Lord. It is I, Lord. I have heard you calling in the night." This is what the Catholics sing, and it's exactly what Samuel prayed. Open yourself to God. Don't ask for things. Don't try to make things come out a certain way. Just say, whatever you want me to do, I will do. You will find, if you pray that prayer, that your life turns out way better than you could have thought of it. You think too small. We all do. I did. And that there are plans for you to help with the progress that's happening in the world in ways which you can't even dream of. then listen. Pray, don't just talk, but listen. And you'll start to see things happening that are not coincidental in your life. That oh my goodness, that's amazing that this or that happened. I seem to be, it's like dodging cars. They don't necessarily speak to us in words, but they make things happen, which will close off one avenue that we thought was what we wanted, and we'll end up at another avenue, and that seems to be where they want us to go. We spend part of every night, apparently every night, while we're asleep, we spend in the afterlife levels. We sometimes have little memories of things happening there are garbled up, and those are what we call dreams. Sometimes we do remember, very rarely we remember our visits there. But when you wake up ask your guides to give you guidance in the night about something. That's your last thought in your head before you go to sleep. When you wake up in the morning, you'll probably find that they have in fact given you guidance. As I say, that's what they wrote my book. I was just their hands. I was trying to do what they wanted me to do, and it turned out way better than I could have ever done it.
Great. You guys got any more questions?
Actually, earlier you had mentioned guardian angels and the plan, which I thought was really interesting because I saw the Adjustment Bureau this morning, and I think you, of all people, would really find it fascinating.
Wait, what was it we saw?
It's a movie. It's a movie called The Adjustment Bureau.
What is that?
It just came out.
It just came out yesterday with Matt Damon and Ellen Blunt and Terrence Stamp, and it's sort of a sci-fi fantasy. It's not really a thriller. I mean, it's got a little suspense, but nothing really violent or anything. But it's the idea that these higher beings have been sort of helping us along. We have a semblance of free will, but only to an extent. So that everything goes according to plan.
Well, and that's kind of true. We have free will, but we exercise it mostly before we're born, and we exercise it with the guidance of our guides. Nobody in the afterlife wants to exercise free will against what's best for the advancement of mind, including our minds. But here, we choose to do other things sometimes, as I say, and we really get off track. But everybody gets rescued. The good news is everybody gets rescued. Remember, time is not real. The universe is already over. It was over a long time ago. Everybody was rescued. But we still think we're in it, and we're still living it, basically. But it has a happy ending.
Go ahead, Craig.
Go
ahead, Craig.
Kara in the chat room. She would like to know what happens to Satanists in the afterlife.
Well, people who are Satanists are playing with fire, and this is probably the worst fire you can play with. Because they are attracting to themselves earthbound demons who need something to do, and I think actually feed on fear energy. And they're not powerful, they're very weak spiritually. But if you let yourself get caught up with these people, they can possess you. A whole other topic we could talk about another night is spirit possession. I think it's a tremendous problem that nobody even realizes is there. And I could give you instances of how I know it's a big problem. But you can get yourself I'm sorry?
I said we kind of know about that on ParaX.com.
Okay, well, good. Well, I'm telling you, there's a lot of evidence for it and how to cure it. But you have a natural defense system, spiritual defense system, much as your body has an immune system, and you've got to keep that strong. And when you play with things like Satanism, you weaken it, and you allow these evil beings to take possession of your body and of your spirit. And you probably will end up in the outer darkness for a time, because that's where they're going, and you're going to go with them. It's a stupid thing to do because it's weak. The more evil something is, the weaker it is spiritually, and spiritual power is really the only power that is. So it's not a good idea ever to do anything like that.
I have another question. We need food to sustain the body. What do spirits need to sustain their energy?
That's a good question. We are of energy. So in that sense, we don't need energy to sustain our minds. But the water and the air, they are alive in a way that I can't really understand. But we breathe there, and the energy that we breathe from the air is all the nourishment those bodies we have need. We don't eat, although we can eat. It's just that the food disappears because we don't have internal organs in those bodies. We don't need to eat. We don't need to drink. But there is apparently enough energy in the air that we breathe that it sustains those bodies. Another thing that remember Jesus talks in the Bible about living water? Well, it turns out the water there is actually alive. This is something a lot of the dead will remark to us about. It's very different from water here. You can go into it fully clothed and bathe and come out dry. It doesn't wet you the way water wets you here, and it gives off a very intense energy, so that when you and it's alive, so that when you bathe in it, you come out refreshed. And that's really all we need to do to sustain our bodies there.
Good. You guys got any more questions there?
I just want to... Go ahead, Jeff.
Oh, I was just saying, I'm just looking at my chat room. I've only had... Kat actually was curious as to what your idea would happen to witches in the afterlife. And by witches, we're not talking about Satanists. We're talking about neo-pagans and people who are polytheistic background.
Doesn't matter. Apparently, it doesn't matter. The only thing we're here to learn is how to love perfectly and how to forgive completely. If someone has has been a paganist and has been perfectly loving and forgiving and learned those lessons well, he or she is going to go right to level 4.
Oddly enough,
matter.
I don't know if you're aware of this, but witches and pagans have a saying which is one of the basis of their belief system, and that's perfect love and perfect trust.
Okay. No more need be said. We all have the same lesson to learn. Doesn't matter where we were born in the world, doesn't matter our culture, it doesn't matter our religion. Perfect love and perfect forgiveness. The real Jesus is the real deal. The problem with Christianity is that it gets away from the teachings of Jesus and more toward other things which are not supported by the evidence. You don't have to be a Christian, for example.
Exactly. They stopped worshiping the message and started worshiping the messenger.
But Jesus is my best friend. I love him much more now than I did before. If you want to talk about Christianity, the very notion that you could be, quote, saved on your deathbed there's no support for that at all. If you've had a nasty life and then you on your deathbed say, okay, accept Jesus as my Savior, that doesn't get you off any kind of hook.
I brought in Joe from Visions Radio. Joe, how are you doing?
I'm good, Henry. Great show tonight, Paul.
Well, thank you. You're on here with Roberta. Did you have a question, or you just wanted to talk about what's coming up on your show?
No, I just want to give everybody a little disclaimer here. Roberta, number one, great show. Craig, obviously, thank you. And Jeff, fantastic lead-in show. I appreciate the 2 hours of work that all of you guys do to give me a great intro at 10 o'clock. And the reason I'm calling is it's going to be a little different show. Obviously, prime time family hour is about to end to a screeching halt at 10 p.m. This is an EVP-based show. I recommend everybody to have a set of headphones. Got kids in the room, send them to bed. They got church in the morning. This is a report on 46 EVPs that Tara and I collected in 2 hours when we went to bed and didn't go to sleep right away. Again, this is an adult-oriented show. You're going to learn a lot. These are Class A EVPs, and it may give us all some answers that we are not alone, and these people are around us all the time. I still can't swallow everything we got, but we're going to be playing a sample of the 46 EVPs, and it's going to be an eye-opening experience. We got John Madden color commentary on everything that's going on, and it's going to blow you away.
That's great.
Great. Excellent.
Are you going to have people's eyes open on the radio?
Well, their eyes are going to open up. Their eyes are going to open up, and their ears are going to bleed, and there's going to be heart attacks. So that's what Visions Magazine online is around for.
So people need to buy her book first.
Well, what I want everybody just to sit back, have a sharpened ear. We're going to be busy playing all this stuff. Use the chat room. I private messaged Craig. Craig uses the same recorder I do. He's going to be our unofficial expert in the field right here in the chat room, classifying
no pressure there.
what he hears. And Craig, you know, you and I have worked together, man, and you know what recorder I'm using, and you're going to hear some quality that I think even you will be amazed by. So I definitely want you to stick through the show and help me out in the chat room and help everybody hear what they're saying and the intensity. And what's really wild, you're going to hear different voices. You're going to hear everything from the throaty growls to clear as a bell as we're talking here. It's just amazing. Everybody's going to be in for an amazing adults-only ride at 10 p.m. on Visions Magazine Radio. That's all I had to say. And Henry, again, I can't thank you enough for 2 hours, a great lead-in show.
Well, appreciate it, and thank you. And you guys have a
Thanks,
great show,
Joe.
too.
We'll be talking to you soon in the chat room.
All right. Take care.
I have a quick question from Tara from Visions Magazine. She'd like to know what attracts spirits to people and what would ward them off.
The best way to ward them off is to surround yourself with spiritual light, which is literally something you can do by imagining a beam of light coming out of just above your eyes, between your eyes, and filling the room and surrounding you. They can't get through that. That actually is a real phenomenon. I've tried it. It's amazing how well it works. And you can also surround people you're concerned about with that kind of light. And it doesn't matter if they're far away because there's no such thing as distance. It's very important to avoid doing anything to attract spirits because you're very likely to attract negative spirits. Therefore, don't do automatic writing. Don't do Ouija boards. Certainly don't do demonism or play with tarot cards or play with Satanism. Instead, think pure thoughts. I won't even watch a scary movie. I won't read a scary book. I won't do anything that is... My mind is where I live, and it's the only part of me that lives, and therefore I protect it. And I urge everybody to do the same thing if you really want to, stay healthy. Another thing you can do is don't get drunk. If you get drunk and you're in a place where a lot of drunk people have congregated, you're almost certain to pick up at least one earthbound spirit who's eager to experience being drunk again, and then you'll carry that person forever. Don't do drugs, because if you do drugs and you weaken your defenses that way, you also can end up picking up spirits, negative spirits. None of this is about morality. It's about spiritual health, and it's very important to maintain your spiritual health because it's hard to get it back if you let it go.
Great.
Does that help?
I guess.
Sounds good to me.
I don't drink or smoke anyway. I've just never gotten into the taste of alcohol, so there you go.
It's okay to drink, casual drinking, but you can't go to a bar and get drunk.
Can't be
that's one of the easiest ways to pick up spirits.
I have enough time just trying to pick up living women. Well,
now that gives me another question. I know when we go out and do investigations, we get EVPs and all this sort of thing. How do we get EVPs and answers to questions that we ask? I mean, are the spirits able to, even though they're on a different plane, are they still able to come back and communicate with us?
Yes, they are. It depends on the kind of EVP you're getting. Some people who are recording in places that are haunted are going to get fairly low-level spirits or earthbounds talking to them, and those are kind of scary sometimes. But there are people who are doing EVP work who have managed to attract a circle. And a circle is a group of very advanced beings who work with somebody or a group of people on Earth. I mean, we know about some famous ones. The Skull Group, for example, worked with a circle. And there have been a number of European circles that have worked with a harsh fishback couple, worked with a circle. These circles are very advanced beings who literally set up a communication station in the afterlife levels and try to work directly with us with our equipment. And there are very high-quality communications that come that way, not just high quality in terms of you can hear them well, but also high quality in terms of the fact they know what they're talking about. If you do an EVP in just in a room on Earth, you may very well pick up a mixed bag of not necessarily friendly or happy spirits. And some of them will outright lie to you. They will tell you all kinds of nonsense. A, because they don't really know what they're talking about, but B, because they're trying to scare you. So people doing EVP have to be careful and try to work only with upper-level beings if you can. But can you hear something about communicating with upper-level beings? They're very picky about who they work with. If they think you're sincere and that you're going to stick to it, they'll try working with you. But if they think that this is your hobby du jour and you're going to, as soon as your tape recorder breaks, you're going away, they won't bother to work with you. It requires a lot of dedication on this level and over a great period of time to really get good communication that gives you actual information as opposed to just, oh, isn't that amazing? I just heard someone say, help, which is what a lot of Earth EVP really is. People who are just setting up and recording as a hobby. But people get their own relatives. I mean, people get wonderful, loving, comforting messages from people who have died and who just want to make sure that mom and dad know I'm okay or whatever. Those are wonderful EVP. As with everything else, it's a complex story.
Now, I know that they say a lot of spirits, I guess if they're earthbound, they would be in a particular place all the time. But if you are a free spirit, can you travel anywhere in the world you want to go?
Yes. There are all kinds of earthbounds. The classic ghost is just somebody who got stuck because they just didn't. They sort of like they missed the bus, and now they can no longer perceive that there are other dimensions. So they could resume a repetitive kind of life. They don't know time is passing. It's like one afternoon to them, and they stay in the same place. But there are others who are at various levels of awareness of their condition, and they've either chosen to stay because they're afraid to go, or they think they're going to hell because they did bad things, or because they're addicted to something. Those people are aware, and they are able to travel. But because they're of relatively low energy, many of them aren't even aware that they can travel, so they tend to stay around one area. But because travel once we get out of our bodies is by mind, and if our mind energy is weak, we really can't do much. Which is what shadow people are, I think. I think they are very low-level entities who have nothing to do and are bored out of their brains, and so they try to scare children and people who they think are susceptible to being scared. It's silly, really. It's just silly, but they can't do anything because they're so weak.
Now, Roberta, have you happened to see either of the two feature films that are very afterlife intensive, specifically What Dreams May Come and The Lovely Bones?
I didn't see The Lovely Bones. I did see What Dreams May Come, I'm pretty sure. There was a recent movie with Matt Damon, too, and Clint Eastwood produced it.
Yeah,
and I saw
Hereafter.
that. Hereafter. I thought that was quite good. It was about afterlife communications and near-death experiences, and I thought it was accurate. It was somewhat limited in how far it went. But I've never seen anyone depict accurately how wonderfully complex the afterlife is, and especially I've never seen anybody adequately show how loving it is. Here we're used to the idea of good and evil. There's only good. There's sort of a lack of good in the lowest level, and better and better good the higher we go. But there's no countervailing evil at all, and people are so much more genuinely loving and wonderful there. It's far better. Anything you've ever thought of heaven being, it's much better. It's much happier, much busier, much more fun, much more to do, much more beautiful. It's much better than anything you could ever have thought of.
So when you die, what level do you usually start out at, and what do you have to do to be able to advance to the next level?
It's usually, I think, around level 3. 2, 3, 4. Again, there's no bright line between them. They're sort of like a rainbow, so that there are various shades in between. But usually a middle-ish level, and to advance, it requires digesting and improving on the lessons we learned here. This is the place to learn. It's much harder to learn to love and forgive in a place where the game is so clearly set that that's what you have to do. Here is where you get the hard lessons. Learning to love and forgive somebody who stole everything from you or harmed someone you loved. That's a tough lesson But that's why those things happen, so we can learn those lessons. And once we learn them and get to the next, to the afterlife levels, we progress much more quickly. Forgiveness is always for us. It's never for the other person. They don't care if you ever forgive them. But in order for you to be whole and to learn to love perfectly and learn to advance spiritually, you have to forgive. As if it never happened, to that extent, you have to forgive. But very few people, I think, end up below say, level 3. I got to tell you, 1 in 7 afterlife experiences is hellish, and almost never is it fiery hell. It's outer darkness hell. So I worry that may mean that more than just a few % of us will spend time in the outer darkness level. But we can't lie. Those are the facts.
You were saying that level 3 was a real peaceful, happy type level.
Yes. Yes. Level 3 is the lowest real Summerland level that's beautiful and happy. To get above level 3, you really have to be advancing spiritually.
Now, I know that in the book of Enoch, when he was telling about the levels that he went to, level 3 he talked about was like paradise, which is when Jesus was on the cross with the thief, and the thief said, "Remember me when you come into your kingdom." Jesus said, "I say unto you that today you'll be with me in paradise." He didn't say heaven, but he did say in paradise, which then would be probably level 3, somewhere in that neighborhood.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure Jesus, I'm pretty confident, came to us from either level 6 or level 7. Level 7 we don't know much about because that's the celestial level, and we're told that's where God is, but in fact God is everywhere. There's nothing that exists that's not God. But anybody at a higher level, if you're on level 5, for example, and you have loved ones at level 3, you can live on level 3. It's just that you're able to go higher than that, whereas people cannot go above their own level of spiritual development. Those who have tried it say that it feels like you can't breathe. It's like you're strangling. You just can't bear to be there. But it gets more beautiful until you get to level 6, where there's very little that's material. By the time you get to level 6, you don't need anything material. I think the Summerland levels are just a place for us to go and relax from this experience we've had, which has been so difficult. It's like R&R after our hard time on Earth.
Now, in the book, you implied that there are courses one can take to help generate your energy levels higher up?
Yes. One of the ways that people advance is to learn from upper-level beings, and they will come down and they'll give courses in sort of classroom-ish places or out under trees. And the ones who are the best teachers are very popular and they are very well attended. And you don't need to sort of consult a curriculum. All you have to do is put out the intention of being with a specific teacher or getting a course in a specific kind of thing, and when it's available, you'll be told, you'll just, the thought will come into your head, so-and-so is under that tree in, could be thousands of Earth miles away, and you'll instantly be there and part of that class.
Wow,
the same is true of concerts. At least, many people who are famous. I mean, 3 that I've seen mentioned are Sinatra, Elvis, and John Lennon. They're still performing there in beautiful open-air theaters. And if you want to hear them, you can just, I say, I want to hear John Lennon, and the next time he's performing, you'll be there.
That's my kind of world.
Talk about on demand.
Yeah.
right, exactly. We're told there are no recordings there's no TV, and we're told there's none of that because you don't need it. Basically, the entertainment is so rich and complex that you can get there. I just want to say one more time, the book is The Fun of Dying. Find out what really happens next. Get it on Amazon if you'd like it. Chapter 6 is on funofdying.com to give you a taste, and there's also the study guide is there available for free as well. And please try afterlifeforums.com. Just drop by and visit and join if you'd like, because it's growing rapidly and we're having a lot of fun with it.
That's great. You got, and your website and everything is what?
Funofdying.com for the book.
I'm a smart. Oh, sorry.
If you want to see a
chat
picture
room,
of me, you can go to robertagrimes.com, but that's like a lawyer website. Why would anyone want to go there?
Right.
I just saw Simone in the chat room said, no TV, and all I can think of is, where will I get my Doctor Who fix? Doctor Who isn't canceled. I gotta watch that.
I'm sorry, Simone. I just got to give you the facts. You won't miss it. I promise you won't miss it. One thing we're told does happen, though, is you get to meet famous people from American history, and sometimes they reenact famous events. So you can literally
Live.
be there at any famous event, and they'll sort of show you how it happened.
That'd be pretty good. Yeah.
We're also told you can visit when you get to a certain level of development. You can visit periods of history. You can walk with dinosaurs, as I say in The Fun of Dying, or attend any event in history that you'd like to attend. You attend it in spirit. You don't get seen, but you get the fun of finding out how it really happened. You can go any place on Earth that you want to be. But you have to be pretty advanced to do those things. However, I think that's kind of a fun thing to look forward to. Before you finally get back to God, you can do a whole lot of other stuff.
Very good.
See, now we're back to the holographic universe theory in the quantum physics. It explains time travel.
Yep.
Yes. Time travel is certainly all the quantum physics experiments I've ever seen, and it's much easier to understand quantum physics if you never took physics in high school, as I never took physics in high school. But quantum physics is the physics of a greater reality. The reality beyond this material universe is quantum physics. I think the physics we have, actually, that our physicists work with is a hybrid, sort of like a universal plug that connects Newtonian physics, which is what makes the universe go.
Roberta, I want to thank you for being on tonight with us.
Oh, thank you for having me. This has been fun. Thank you, Simone.
And
thank you, everyone.
I want you to stay on till after we get off, and we'll chat with you for a few minutes.
Okay.
I do want to let everybody know that next week our guest is Charles Spicer of Triops, and he's going to be on talking about their group and some of the different things they've done and some of the new things that they've got that's going to be going on here in Hamilton, Ohio, where they are having a thing to where they are looking for the most haunted place in Butler County. So that's pretty interesting. We'll be talking about that next week. Do want y'all to stay tuned tonight after the show for Visions Online Radio. They've got a great show lined up for that, as always. And we just want to thank everybody from around the world who's been listening tonight. We had listeners from the United States, United Kingdom, Australia, and Canada tonight. And we appreciate you for tuning in and listening to us. Also, Jeff, you have got a great site where you put up all the information about each one of our shows. You want to give that out or put it in the chat room?
Sure. It's at my website, jeffgould.net, GEOFFGOULD.net. And I reduced the URL so people can actually get to it, /2011PNV.htm. That's like 2011 Paranormal View.htm, but it's just the initials, 2011 PNV, and that has links to each of the shows with the podcast, because I embed them right there on the page, and so hurrah.
And this show will be put up on podcast, and you can get it from Jeff's site, or you can get it from our site, theparanormalview.com, or you can go to theparanormalview@podomatic.com. And there's a button at the top of the chat room that says On Demand. Our shows will also be in there probably within a couple of days. So there are lots of places you can listen to us. With that, we are just about out of time. We're going to say so long for this week. And you can stay tuned for Joe and Tara, which will be coming up in just a minute. So with that, I want to thank everybody. Thank Craig and Jeff and Roberta for being on tonight.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you for having me here. It's been fun.
So stay tuned. They'll be coming right up in just a second. Until then, next week, everybody. Till then, good night.
Night.
Good night, all.
visit us again